Welcome. I'm Christine Manning with the Wine Education Institute. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into South Africa and its wines. Today we are going to explore a wine-producing country that bridges the gap between Old World and New World. With a dramatic mountainous backdrop and a stunning coastline, South African winemakers are taking advantage of unique cooling influences to produce remarkably broad range of wine styles. Thank you for joining me. Let's discover the geography, climate, and viticulture of South Africa. The majority of South Africa's wine-growing regions are located between 32 and 35 degrees south of the equator. At this latitude, you would naturally expect a hot climate. South Africa's viticultural success relies on cooling influences. The most important of these is the Benguela Current. This is a cold ocean current that flows straight up from Antarctica along the west coast of Africa, significantly cooling the coastal areas. This is amplified by a regular, strong southeasterly summer wind, known locally as the Cape Doctor. The Cape Doctor brings this chilled air further inland, lowering temperatures by several degrees, while also blowing away fungal disease pressure. Another defining feature are mountain ranges running throughout the wine regions. These mountains offer a range of different altitudes and aspects, resulting in numerous different site climates. Vineyards planted on the southern slopes benefit from cooler temperatures, while the mountains themselves cast shadows over nearby vineyards, providing slight cooling. Near the coast, these mountains help channel the winds through the vineyards, which maximize their cooling effects. Let's look at what's planted in these diverse soils. Our black varieties begin with our king of the New World grapes, Cabernet Sauvignon. This is the most widely planted black variety. It's used to make excellent varietal wines and will frequently be blended with Merlot and Cabernet Franc for our Bordeaux-style blends. On its own, Merlot can be full-bodied, plummy red wines. And Syrah is very successful here because in hot climates it yields rich, full-bodied reds with high alcohol and ripe black fruit, often accompanied by an earthy or meaty character, and making it famous for that pairing with grilled or smoked foods. In cooler areas, Syrah produces a leaner, more elegant, and peppery style. Now, for Pinot Noir, which demands cooler conditions, it is only planted in small amounts in the coolest coastal areas. Premium examples are matured in oak to add toasty aromas. Pinotage is made in a range of styles. You can find it from anywhere from light and fruity styles meant to be drunk early, all the way to wines from old vines with rich spiced berry fruit. When fermented or stored with heavily toasted oak staves, Pinotage can take on an instant coffee or chocolate aromas. It can be polarizing, but a nice fit for tasters who like Pinot Noir, but might want to have some of those oak influences added. Cape blends are red blends that require a portion of Pinotage to be included. Frequently, Pinotage will be blended with one or more international varieties in these blends. Chenin Blanc is the most widely planted variety of either color in South Africa. It can produce easy drinking wines with simple stone fruit flavors, but producers are increasingly making premium wines from old vines. These premium Chenin Blancs offer concentrated complex flavors, fuller textures, and often barrel fermentation and aging for extra body. You can also see sparkling wines from Chenin Blanc. Colombard is the second most planted white variety, largely used for brandy production or high volume, inexpensive wines. Sauvignon Blanc is widely grown and shows a range of styles. The best examples come from the coolest regions, displaying very pure flavors of citrus and green fruit. In warmer regions, the grapes have to be picked early to retain acidity. Chardonnay is capable of making wines of very high quality, particularly in cooler sites. Winemakers frequently use Burgundian techniques like barrel fermentation and lees stirring to add character. And known locally as Hanepoot, Muscat of Alexandria is widely planted for late harvest dessert wines, which are left to shrivel on the vine, though noble rot can also play a role. Before we tour the specific regions, we need to understand the labeling laws. South Africa uses wines of origin, or WOs. If a wine carries a certificate of seal on the bottle, it means it complies with our WO regulations. The system recognizes 4 different sizes of production areas. The first and largest is a geographical unit, which is a catch-all appellation allowing for multiple regional and district blends. Regions are large areas following dominant geographical features. Then there are districts, which are smaller areas within a region. And finally, the smallest and most specific WO areas are wards. You may also see estate wines. These must come from a single estate, and all the grapes must come from estate vineyards that cover a single geographical area. Additionally, estates must have their facilities on their land, allowing them to process the grapes and bottle the wine up to the point of release. Finally, South Africa has a voluntary, sustainable agricultural regulations. Certifiers can display their credentials on their WO seals under the Integrated Production of Wine, or IPW program. It is important to note that wineries in certain districts can source their grapes from a wider GI. In this instance, they could be labeled for the region, for example, Breede River region, or geographical unit like Western Cape. For exam purposes, it will be worth your while to memorize the specific hierarchy and understand how these nest within one another. Over 90% of the wine made in South Africa comes from the Western Cape. This is the dominant geographical unit, and it allows producers to blend the best parcels of fruit from different areas to achieve consistency and quality. The remainder of the wine comes from the hot, irrigated Northern Cape, mostly for inexpensive wines. Within the Western Cape, we will explore 3 key regions. First, the coastal region has long been a hub of fine wine production, stretching from just inland of the coast at Somerset West right up to the mountains. Within this region, Stellenbosch is the most famous district. It stretches up the mountains and benefits from a more moderate to warm climate. There is sufficient rainfall in the winter, and the summers are rarely too hot, thanks to the cool winds from False Bay that are funneled up through the mountains. The success of Stellenbosch lies in the variety of altitude, aspect, and soil. It has built a reputation for top-class red wines from Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot in those Bordeaux-style blends, and Syrah. There's also high-quality Cape red blends using Pinotage. Cooler sites produce high-quality Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay. Just to the north of Stellenbosch is the Paarl district. Because it is further inland and less exposed to the cooling sea influences, temperatures here tend to be hotter in the summer. The mountainous terrain still offers a variety of altitudes and aspects and soils, allowing a range of grapes to thrive. Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, and Pinotage are important, while Chenin Blanc and Chardonnay are the most planted white varieties. Moving towards the city, we find the Cape Town district, which encompasses several famous wards. The most renowned of these is the Constantia ward. Situated on the eastern flanks of Table Mountain, there's some of the oldest vineyards in the Cape here. They are constantly cooled by the Cape Doctor, giving the area a reputation for fresh Sauvignon Blanc. One of the most historic sweet wines is Vin de Constance, is also made here from late harvested Muscat. Warmer sites in Constantia successfully grow Shiraz and Cabernet Sauvignon. Also near Cape Town is the Durbanville ward. These hillside sites are north of the city and cooled by sea breezes coming off Cape Point, allowing them to build a highly respected reputation for Sauvignon Blanc. To the north of Cape Town is the large Swartland district. Historically an area for inexpensive grapes, Swartland has recently undergone a transformation and is a center of innovation and premium production. It's particularly recognized for its old vine Chenin Blanc and high-quality Syrah. Many of these old vines are dry farmed or grown without irrigation, which lowers yields but enhances fruit concentration. You'll find premium Cape blends, both red and white, coming out of this district too. Next to Swartland, positioned right next to the coast, is the Darling district. Because it directly receives cooling sea breezes, Darling has built a strong reputation for Sauvignon Blanc, though like Swartland, it also is becoming a great source for other varieties. Moving inland, we find the Breede River Valley region. The climate here is generally hot and dry. However, fertile soils and irrigation drawn from the river allow this area to produce a significant proportion of South Africa's annual wine output. The Worcester district lies at the western end of the valley, where it is further north, inland, and warm. The majority of white wine made here is Chenin Blanc and Colombard. Much of this production is dedicated to distillation or is used for high-volume, inexpensive branded wines. To the east of Worcester is the Robertson district. It shares a similar climate, but it is slightly cooler thanks to the southeasterly winds drawn into the valley. While Robertson is also a reliable source of wines for high-volume brands, the cooling influences and notable outcrops of less fertile soils mean it can produce high-quality Syrahs and full-bodied Chardonnays. Our final major region is the Cape South Coast. As the name suggests, the region is well exposed to the ocean, making its climate cooler. The most well-established districts here is Walker Bay. It contains highly regarded helm on hard boards. Because of the strong ocean influence, this area produces some of South Africa's finest Chardonnays and Pinot Noirs, along with Sauvignon Blanc, Merlot, and Syrah. To the northwest of Walker Bay is the Elgin district. What makes Elgin unique is its cooling influences comes primarily from altitude. This elevated cool climate district has a reputation for intensely fresh Sauvignon Blanc, but it produces elegant, high-quality Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and Syrah. Finally, located in the far south within the Cape Agulhas district is the Elim ward. With maritime cooling, Elim has developed a reputation for herbaceous Sauvignon Blanc and Syrah that is also showing incredible promise. As you can see, South Africa is far more than just a hot climate producer. To list just a few examples of the high-quality wines we see and want to know, we have old bush vines in Swartland creating highly concentrated Chenin Blanc and Syrah without irrigation. Walker Bay and Elgin districts create elegant wines that can be very good to outstanding in quality. And South Africa's viticulture is dominated by Chenin Blanc. Our black varieties like Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, and Pinotage are all widely planted across the coastal region. Cool climate Chardonnay and Pinot Noir are building a reputation in the Cape South Coast districts like Walker Bay and Elgin, although we can see all varieties in most all of the regions. Be sure to keep that wine of origin hierarchy fresh in your mind. And when preparing for your exam, remember the climatic influences of the region, cooling instances like the Benguela Current and the Cape Doctor in an otherwise warm region. But more than just memorize these, establish a clear cause and effect relationship, allowing these influences to grow quality wines. Thank you so much for joining me today. Good luck on your exam. Cheers.